Hi guys, so just a little update video. I normally try and do a lot more than I did last week in video terms, but it was just a case of the time I was spending was just doing that kind of rust repairs and stuff, so there wasn't a whole lot to be reporting about that would be of interest or technicality or anything like that. So what I got done last week was I got the patch done here, and I got the little patch done here. The same on the other side, as well as the steering box mount that kind of goes around that little corner here. It's a bit ugly actually. I'll show you it. I'm not afraid to show my ugly work. So there it is. There, that's the curve, and you got it coming down here. I have this light on, which is making it look a little bit more horrible than normal. I got this done here, which was this part here was a cutout. This was all gone basically, and this part here was a cutout from another car, and then you can see the hole for the petrol tank to go in, and I just had to fabricate up this little piece here. So again, it's horrible. Ignore my crappy welds. I didn't bother flaring that, or bending that area there, because that would have made it really difficult to actually get this circle. But because the rubber gasket is so thick, it won't be an issue. Again, sorry, it's very ugly. And then I took off the bumper, cleaned up some of the lip along here, and found another hole just here. Got that kind of, I had to put a 90 degree in that so I get this curve, got that curve, then this had to lap over so it came beyond the 90. Actually was a little bit, it was a nice panel to make because it wasn't overly difficult to make, but it was complex. I actually really enjoyed making that one. And actually in the end I really enjoyed making that one. That one did not like. I think it's mainly because they're overhead, and when you're welding overhead, I'm sure you guys know, you get burned very badly, kind of. So my hairline isn't great as at the best of times, and then to add into the fact that I'm getting my hair follicles burned out of my head, it's not nice. But anyway, so you might notice that this has been welded here. What happened with these was that I had the nut was stuck, or the bolt was stuck in a nut up here. For the rear anti-roll bar mount, and what I did then was I just cut the nut because I thought, or cut the bolt because I thought it was a nut up here, which it was a nut, but it was welded. It was a capsulated nut, which was a killer because you can't get in at these. So you cannot get in there to cut. You can't get in. You could possibly cut this one with the body saw, but you were never going to get this one. So what I ended up doing was having to cut straight across here and here, bend this down, and then cut off each of those nuts with the angle grinder on a cutting blade. So that was not nice. So what I did was I bent these, put these back up. Then I welded these a few times till I made sure that it was seamless. So when I grind it back, you cannot see the seam where the cut was. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a little plate to match that shape. Sit it in between those tabs. And I'll make it that it has arms off it to go up here, and I'll bring it past where my seam was, so I'll bring it all the way up to about there, and I'll just weld, zip, kind of two welds there, maybe a spot weld either side here on both sides, and drill the holes through. And I'm going to hopefully be able to just run an actual nut with a spanner on. I could even possibly use a long spanner to get in, and then just do that one last if I've got space out this side. Alternatively, I'll have to make a washer that has a washer the shape of that, shape like this, with the two nuts welded into it out of maybe 3mm, and put a plate sitting in there. That's another alternative, but that while it sounds very basic, could take an awful lot of time. This side was really mangled. So I'll use the other side. I'll make a template out to the other side, with the two little equal legs coming off it basically. And then once I flip that upside down, I'll be able to sit it on this, and that'll actually give me the shape of this side to mold it all back in, because this one is a bit, let's say, mangled. It's not as pretty as the other side. So that was that. Anyway, so what I did was I finished up. I did those welds, finished up that on a Saturday. Was on my way out the door, and when I was going out the door, I was just standing around talking. My brother was here doing work on his car, and I was just standing around. I seen this, and my heart sunk when I seen this. So basically, I had these powder coated and blasted, as you know. It was quite an aggressive blast. It was an agricultural place, so it kind of does lifters for tractors, wheels, and JCB arms and stuff like that. So it's quite aggressive, which is good because it means that all the metal that leaves behind is good. But the problem was, in this one area, it didn't leave behind too much metal, or it left behind a good amount, but it did blow holes through. I didn't notice this when I picked them up. I didn't notice it when I was dropping them off, that there was even rust there. Now, it could have been hidden in grime and grit and stuff like that on the way to it, but I should have noticed it straight away when I picked them up, but I didn't. So you'll see there's a hole here, a hole here, and a hole here, and then there's one little pinhole there. So my idea with this was, I was saying to myself, Jesus, I don't know now if I'm going to be doing kind of a tensile point. You know, it's a high tension area. It has a pivot action from the arm. It's going to be under load. I was a bit hesitant to do this myself, and I might still not do it myself. But my idea is to, because it's good and strong, like the weld is perfect. And this has all been blasted, so you know that that's not a seam sealer. Like that, it's just the welds are good and strong on this. So it seems to be these central areas of the sheet, and you can see this little concave just here. So what I'm going to try and do today is, I might just make the template today. I might not actually do the work today, but I might make the template that goes like this, goes around here, encapsulates that, and goes up and meets the opposite, this side here, the opposite, and that'll place over that. You know, so it'll be this wide here, going into this narrow part, this wide into that narrow part on a 90. And then I'll make the inverted version of that for this area here. For both sides, you know. So then I will have basically 3 pieces. So it'll be patched over, as in I'm not going to start cutting out. I'm not going to start cutting out this mount and cutting it all up and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that patch to go sit over that. I can weld around to reinforce this central area off these 2 pivot points and off the top bar and the lower bar there. And then the same for here. All right. And then for that little hole in the bottom there, my intention is to get an oversized drill bit, drill that out to a nice little kind of flat circle area here, and then make a tab the same size out of that same drill bit. Use the drill bit to trace a line, and basically put that piece in there with using a hanger. I've seen this process where you just put a little tack of hanger wire onto it. You can sit it there, and then you can zip it around it. So that will make a nice flush inset fix for that, so that you're not fouling on anything, and then this outer piece won't be in contact with any of the anti-roll bars and that. It'll just re-strengthen it up basically. But my main issue for this, for doing this, is that I use a flux core welder for the light metal, and this is this measures 3 mil, but it's when you remove the powder coating and everything like that, it could be 1.5 mil, it could be 1 mil sheet. So it's not too much thicker than a body steel, which is it's okay. So that means that the flux core would work on it, but it won't make a perfectly nice seam and all these kind of welds, and it might not hold up to being a stressed member basically. The alternative then is I use my inverter stick welder, which will burn this up in 2 seconds flat. On its lowest setting, if you can strike that stick, it will still just blow holes right through this. It's way too powerful. The inverter welder is what I would have used for all these IPEs. So all of that, see that, those two bars there, these crossbars, every single piece of wood that is held up on that had to get the actual cleat welded in, you know. So it was for, I got it as a good way of, it's a great way to weld, but it's for heavy steel basically. So that's it there. It's a tiny little machine, but like that, it will blow a hole straight through anything light like that. So the ideal thing to have would be a proper MIG that I can wind down the power and get a real clean weld out of it. So anyway, what I might do is I might make up that stencil or the templates, make sure that they're all right, then get some offcuts of the 1mm, or get some offcuts of that sheet metal and start kind of fillet welding seams in and just try and really dial it in on the bench before I even go near there. And hopefully we will be able to get a good strong weld on it. We're in lockdown, so it's not like I know the local guys from the let's say the stainless place and everything like that, but because we're on lockdown, you can't even go around to them and hand it in and go, guys, will you just make me up a new mount there and weld it on, like. So I may as well have a go at it myself. What I want to do really quickly is I want to try and source a replacement. On the chance that this doesn't go right, I would just go back to my powder coaters with the new subframe that is good and get them to weld it, or get them to powder coat it, and then that would save, let's say this goes badly for me. So basically I'm willing to let this go bad to have a go, as long as I've already sourced a new subframe. But today's task is basically just to get those three pieces made up so that I can weld it basically. If I got that done today, we'd be doing very well. Anyway guys, that was a long video. Not much really happening, only just boring kind of welding and all that. I'm sure I could have shown you some of that with a dance tune behind it and made it a bit more interesting. But anyway, appreciate you watching. Thanks. Bye.